This episode is brought to you by Experian Automotive. Experian helps the auto industry turn powerful vehicle, consumer, and credit data into action. From smarter marketing and better credit decisions to fraud protection, vehicle history, and market insights, they can help you move faster and stay ahead of the competition. Learn more at Experian Automotive.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Thursday, July 30th, 2026. I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, Stellantis swings back to profit after a brutal year. Carvana's bet on new cars is paying off, and Nissan is trying to build cars at China speed. Plus, 4 of North America's top supplier executives talk about how they're trying to plan for a future nobody can predict.
One of our customers said recently, we have learned that the government can be more disruptive to our business than our own competition.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry. Stellantis is back in the black. The automaker swung to a €293 million profit in the second quarter, reversing a €1.9 billion loss from a year earlier. North America led the rebound, driven by demand for models like the Ram 1500, though higher recall costs cut into margins. Europe was the only region to lose money. That division posted a €94 million operating loss. CEO Antonio Filosa confirmed the company's full-year targets and plans to spend €60 billion through 2030 on new models. Carvana's new car experiment is paying off. CEO Ernie Garcia said during the company's second quarter earnings call that its 7 Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealerships are profitable and earning strong customer loyalty scores. The used vehicle giant also posted record second quarter results. Net income was more than $500 million. That's up from $300 million a year ago. Q2 revenue was more than $7.3 billion, a 52% jump. And Nissan is racing to match China. The automaker has slashed new vehicle development time by 40% down to 37 months. Its next-generation Skyline sedan targets just 26 months. The approach bundles vehicle families, consolidates decision-making, and replaces physical prototypes with AI-powered testing. But Nissan execs acknowledge that China's around-the-clock engineering culture is a structural advantage Japan can't easily copy. And those are today's headlines. For more details on all those stories, head over to autonews.com. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer made her first trip across the new Gordie Howe International Bridge this week, and what she was driving caught the eye of our own Greg Layson, digital and mobile editor at our sibling publication, Automotive News Canada. Greg wrote a column about what the choice represented, and then went across the Gordie Howe and the Ambassador Bridge himself to see how they compare. He spoke with our own Jake Neer.
Greg Layson, great to have you back on Daily Drive.
Good to be back.
You noticed something, a little detail about Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, her first ride over the Gordie Howe Bridge. What did you see, and why was it symbolic in your mind?
I noticed right away she was in a Ford GT Mustang 5-liter convertible, and it is the smallest of things, but it was that 5.0 badge on the front fender that I noticed and thought, oh my goodness, what a genius choice of vehicle to drive across the Gordie Howe Bridge. Look how bad of a habit it is. I almost called it the Ambassador Bridge. To open the Gordie Howe Bridge, because it was symbolic of what this bridge represents in terms of automotive. That vehicle is built only in Flat Rock, Michigan. That is where it is assembled. But that engine beneath the hood is only built in Windsor, Ontario. And so for that vehicle to exist, it requires both countries doing their part in the automotive supply chain. And I just thought this bridge is to represent, our friendship, our alliance, our integration in the auto industry, and it is there and it is designed to alleviate any bottlenecks along the way when it comes to the supply chain. And this vehicle represented exactly why the bridge was constructed in the first place.
And not totally clear, as far as I know at this point, whether it was intentional or not, but either way, really interesting insight there, Greg, and I'm glad you caught that. You actually had a chance to go over both international bridges between Detroit and Windsor recently. What did you see?
So I went to Michigan using the Ambassador Bridge, not, out of habit, but, my GPS said that was the fastest route. And it looked very similar in terms of traffic to what I'd been used to over the summer, especially in terms of truck traffic. There were a ton of trucks on the Ambassador Bridge entering Canada. Now, there were fewer, it seemed, entering the United States. But for the most part, it seemed like a run-of-the-mill Wednesday afternoon around 4 o'clock. Coming back, I took the Gordie Howe International Bridge, and I saw very few trucks on that bridge. But what I did notice is that this is going to be incredibly more efficient. There are so many lanes. There is so much room. There are so many customs booths. There are no bottlenecks. There are more lanes of traffic in each direction, 3 always going into America, 3 always coming into Canada. Complete opposite of what happens at the Ambassador Bridge, where there's sometimes 3 going one way and 1 coming the other, which creates all these bottlenecks. So, at first blush, you can see how this is going to improve the trade route. And to be connected to Interstate 75 in the United States and Highway 401 in Ontario, that is a bonus for truckers. But, we're still in the early days of both being opened. Our habits going to change. Our route's going to change. I suggest probably. But remember, Matty Maroon at the Ambassador Bridge still has cheap gas for truckers. He has showers for truckers. These are things that don't exist at the Gordie Howe International Bridge.
Well, Greg, this is really fascinating, and I'm sure we'll cross this bridge again sometime.
I'm sure we will.
I know you will. Thanks again for joining us.
Anytime.
Coming up, the auto industry's top suppliers say uncertainty is no longer the exception. It's the new normal. 4 executives talk about how they're building organizations that can adapt. That's next on Daily Drive.
This episode is brought to you by Experian Automotive. In today's auto market, every decision matters, and the businesses winning are the ones powered by better data. That's where Experian Automotive comes in. Experian combines industry-leading vehicle, consumer, and credit data with deep automotive expertise to help dealers, lenders, manufacturers, and industry partners make smarter decisions and move faster. Want to connect with the right shoppers at the right time? Looking to sharpen your marketing, make more confident credit decisions, better understand vehicle history, spot market trends, or strengthen your defenses against fraud? Experian helps make it happen. But it's not just about having a lot of data. It's about knowing what to do with it. Experian's automotive experts understand the challenges facing the industry today and help turn complex information into clear, actionable insights that drive results. Whether you're focused on growing your business, improving efficiency, managing risk, or staying ahead of market shifts, Experian Automotive gives you the intelligence and tools to compete with confidence. Learn more at experianautomotive.com. Experian Automotive, powering smarter decisions across the automotive ecosystem.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Kellen Walker. On Wednesday, Automotive News hosted a Congress Conversations live stream focused on this year's top suppliers list. Assistant Managing Editor Hannah Lutz led a panel of 4 North American supplier leaders through some of the biggest challenges reshaping the industry right now, from tariffs and EV uncertainty to supply chain resilience and the rise of Chinese competition. On the panel, Aruna Anand, CEO of Aumovio North America, Ramiro Gutierrez, President of ZF North America, Andrew Clements, North America Chief Technology Officer at Denso, and Marisa West, Executive Vice President and Chairperson of North America at OP Mobility. Here's a piece of that conversation.
So the auto industry has gone through many shifts over the past 18 months or so, with tariffs, looser emission regulation, affordability challenges. How are you able to plan during this time of uncertainty? What is your planning strategy? Aruna, will you start?
Yeah, so it is without a doubt that recent market and geopolitical developments have increased uncertainty in the short term. The reality is that uncertainty has become a permanent feature of our industry. And certainly tariffs have added cost and complexity across the entire supply chain. And honestly, everyone is feeling it in different ways, depending on where you sit in the value chain and how exposed once specific commodities or regions are. But what we do is rather than try to predict every outcome, we are building an organization that can adapt quickly regardless of what happens. That means scenario planning, maintaining financial discipline, staying close to the customers, and investing in technologies that will remain relevant for multiple market outcomes. And I feel the winners in this environment won't necessarily be the companies that predict the future perfectly, but they'll be companies that can adjust the fastest while continuing to deliver for customers.
Okay, thank you. Is there, a long-held assumption that has guided your business or at least been present in your business that has changed in the last year? Anyone else like to answer that? How about Ramiro?
Well, obviously, nobody had in the radar screen the turmoil created by the electrical vehicle market situation, right? That was a bad surprise in the last year, and now we all had to react. Aruna said it very well. The key here is to remain flexible and adaptable to the situation. We have multiple situations, especially on the geopolitical arena. One of our customers said recently, we have learned that the government can be more disruptive to our business than our own competition. So that is telling you how adaptable we need to remain and how flexible we need to be to the changes in customer demand and the geopolitical situation.
But I thought your second part of your question was slightly framed different.
Yes.
And what are we doing? Maybe something that we didn't do in the past or different, I guess. So if you look at it, the automotive industry itself, we spent decades building highly efficient global supply chains. And what we are doing now is more regionalizing it, localizing it. Resiliency has become one of the most important differentiating factors. So these are the elements, I would say, are slightly different than what we had done since decades.
Right. That global outlook has to be adjusted in some ways.
Exactly.
Sure. So Marisa, going off of that, how is OP Mobility diversing the portfolio to hedge against changing market dynamics and policy?
Yeah, so diversification has really become foundational to our strategy, and it's diversification through multiple pillars, and one is technology. So we still have our core businesses with exterior and with fuel systems, but really we've grown quite significantly through acquisition with the lighting business. We have battery business. We have hydrogen technology, hydrogen fuel cell and fuel storage. So we've really been trying to anticipate the trends of the industry from a technology standpoint and diversify our portfolio accordingly. Similarly, this geographical diversification. So to Aruna's point, we recognize that for more than a decade plus, the industry, really became sophisticated and agile from a real true globalized nature. And now we're seeing the markets are really developing at different paces. The technology needs in the markets are developing at different paces. And we have a very intentional strategy to diversify globally. So we have North America, we have Europe, and of course, Asia and China are very key markets. And then the final pillar of our diversification strategy is with our customers. And so, as a European headquartered company for 80 years, we have a large center of gravity there. But there's been, very intentional efforts and investments made across the globe to build and grow with a diverse customer base as well. So diversity in all elements of the business. And that really helps with not just growth, but also the robustness, the agility, and ability to adapt as, we do anticipate some changes and then some things surprise us. But I think one other point Aruna made was, it's not just the past 18 months. It's hard now in this industry to remember a quote normal year. And so all of these strategies are really designed to help us just remain agile and resilient.
Have the previous experiences with COVID and other things, do you think that set you up to be more successful in this time where things are changing fast and sometimes, you don't know if you'll ever have a clear answer? Has it set you up better? And Andrew, maybe you can speak to this.
Yeah, well, I think the experience from COVID certainly taught us about needing resiliency in the supply chain, and both Marissa and Aruna talked about that. I think especially now, it's really important to have kind of a North Star, something that guides your company strategy. Otherwise, we become too reactive to all the turmoil and uncertainty in the market. And for us, that's always been and will continue to be our customers, and having strong relationships, constant communication, understanding where they need us, what they need from us, and making sure we can deliver competitively. So I think those lessons from COVID, plus our guiding star, really help us stay grounded in this current environment.
We have a follow-up question from the audience. The viewer is saying, I'm hearing more conversation about creating an office of resiliency within an organization. How are you structuring your efforts to focus on resilience? What is organizationally, how do you do that? Would anyone like to jump in on that first?
Certainly it's, from a purchasing and supply chain perspective, it's recognizing where you have any single point of failure, where you have strategies where you can optimize any tariff impacts. Certainly that's an element of diversification and resilience. We see, the impact of the situation in Iran and needing to be resilient there, and how we look at our raw materials and the impacts that disruptions like that, geopolitical problems, can cause. And so I think it's really getting into the detail, always knowing where your options are, always doing the scenario planning so that where you can pivot if the pivot becomes necessary. And I like the point that Andrew made about working very, very closely with our customers to understand what their priorities are and to understand how they can help us. I think, I see more collaboration than ever, working collectively across the industry to identify these points of risk. Where do we need to develop resilience? Where does it already exist in strategies that we can employ to utilize those? And this customer centricity, building where our customers build, is becoming, it's more than a talk track. This is becoming where the investments are being made. And as suppliers, we have to really be lockstep with what our customers are doing.
If I were to add our story on how we are structuring and how we are addressing, where localization improves resilience or customer responsiveness or competitiveness, we are absolutely pursuing those opportunities. But our focus is really on supply chain resilience. And in some cases, when you have high volume or strategically critical areas, localization makes perfect sense. But when you have low volume or single location components, you may not have a business case that supports that. So the answer is not only to localize, but you have to do more resilience. And what that means is multi-sourcing where it makes sense. And we do it not later, but even upfront design. We design for multi-sourcing opportunities, and you need a very strong transparency into your tiers, tier 2, tier 3 risks, and practical collaboration across the value chain. So that means design teams, procurement teams, manufacturing teams, and ultimately customers want reliability, quality, and competitiveness. So every sourcing opportunity, not just of our own, but of our suppliers and the manufacturing decisions on where we would have it, is looked through from that lens. And that's what it means when we say resilience from a supplier perspective.
If I could add, I think Aruna brought a really good point. Resilience for me really starts and stops from the design. If you want to have a resilient supply chain, you've got to have designs that are scaled, flexible, that you can reuse, that you can source in multiple regions, multiple suppliers. And so if you have too dedicated designs, it really limits your ability to react to that turmoil that we're experiencing today.
Our own Hannah Lutz spoke with Aruna Anand, CEO of Amovio North America, Romero Gutierrez, President of ZF North America, Andrew Clements, North America Chief Technology Officer at Denso, and Marisa West, Executive Vice President and Chairperson of North America at OP Mobility. You can watch the full recording of our Congress Conversations live stream on the Automotive News, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn pages. That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer, as well as our own Mark Homer and Hans Greimel for their reporting for today's podcast. We also had reporting from Greg Layson of our sibling publication Automotive News Canada and Luca Schiferi of Automotive News Europe. You can get the latest news on the global supply chain, manufacturing, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.